And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Worth Revealed. Today, a very dear friend of mine is a guest on the show, Smita Jain. I have known her from the time she was studying design at Raffles, and today she's a director at SP Jain Global. Is one of the top management schools in India. She heads the MG Lux program and the MSc HBL program. So, welcome, Smita, to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get started on our conversation. So yeah, I'm here and excited to start. Let's go.
So, Smita, let's start with your early journey, right from studying from Raffles in Mumbai to moving to Paris for your master's and eventually being in the fashion and luxury industry. What stood out during your design education, and what is a specific moment or something which led you to luxury?
Okay. So thank you for that question. And yes, as you know, I was studying design at Raffles. So it was 3 years a long journey of discovering everything that there is to discover about fashion design. And you were one of my professors. So thank you so much for, being part of the journey so early on. And the reason why I actually joined Raffles and started design was a family decision. Not a lot of people know that, but I basically just wanted to get done with design and start my own brand, and get into
Oh, very interesting.
fashion. Yeah. And with time, I decided especially when I was in graduation and I was doing design and I was discovering more and more about this industry, I figured out very early on that I need more time because there's a
Okay.
lot. There's a lot to
Yes.
cover in terms of not just design, but the other side of design, which is business. So when I finished my 3 years at Raffles, I got good skills, on pattern cutting and designing and draping and how the bodice works and everything, in general, what you learn in a design school and basics of management. But that wasn't enough for me because I got very excited more about branding and management than design.
Okay.
And for me, it was very important that I can't just be a designer. I need to be more practical about the way the business works. And then I wanted to educate myself further. And then I started looking up business schools and, I wanted to get into business of fashion at that time. Luxury was not on the radar. When I started exploring, again, it was a spur of the moment. Not a lot of people know it was not planned. I had not got a list of colleges or schools, like nowadays my students have a
Yes.
list of colleges. I did not have that. And honestly, at that time, there weren't so many colleges and schools.
Yes, I totally believe you.
I'm talking like nearly 13, 14 years back, My father decided for me that I should go to Paris because he had a very strong relationship with that city and that country also because he's been traveling for years and he goes multiple times a year to France and he visits Paris, and he just said, it would be easy, so you just find something in Paris. It was as simple as that. And I found a school and I went there. I went to ISEM, which is part of Esmod Group, and I did business there. And then when I was studying, fell in love with that place. It was difficult, of course, living there at that time. Again, it was a lot of, you know,
How was your French at a point of time?
it wasn't good when I went there because I didn't study. Now, again, contrary to what happens now, because when you are sending students or students are
Yeah.
going to Europe, they study the language basics firsthand, and that's very helpful. But at that time, there was nobody. I just got out of grad school, finished my graduation, had a good grad show, and then went to Paris, was thrown there. I didn't know the language. It was very difficult. I had to find my way to how to get around, how to get my things done, because but I was lucky because I had good friends and I made good friends, and my friends were very helpful. So I started learning bits and pieces from them, how to get my coffee, how to get my groceries, basic things. And that's how it started, to be very honest. When I started staying there, I think first few months I wanted to leave. I just didn't want
Oh
to
my
keep
God.
staying here because it was difficult.
For sure. I think.
And at that time, again, let me remind you, although I don't want to tell people how old I am, but there was no WhatsApp, there was no FaceTime, there was nothing. I used to communicate with my family through Skype.
Oh, yes.
And even getting Skype at that time, getting the Wi-Fi sorted, it was a big, big thing, whatever
It's
I went through at
expensive.
that.
To rupees is always a big
Yes,
expensive
yes,
conversion.
yes. So it was a journey. you know. But when I stayed there, I did my master's, I studied, I had an internship from there, and I was working with a brand as a PR assistant. That was my first job with a luxury footwear brand. And I was actually just sending shoes from one place to the other, like to different
Was that your
magazines.
first stint with luxury, or were you
You can say that.
studying luxury also at the school at the same
No,
time?
no, because I was just studying fashion business. Maybe a glimpse of luxury, because obviously when you're studying fashion business in France, you get exposed to luxury brands.
Yes.
But if you're asking me, did I study luxury management per se? Like, I had a glimpse. There were faculty who would talk about luxury brands, but not really gotten exposed to luxury education per se at that.
Yes.
We were having exhibitions at the Ritz. We had to deal with top clientele, Condé Nast, across the world, VVIPs. And, I was the one like booking shipments for the footwear to go from here to there. Kylie Minogue is wearing the shoes. And I had no
But
salaries.
I know I did my internships in Paris also without
Yeah,
any.
like again, like contrary to what happens today, which is so amazing. But a lot of running around, lot of working. It was a very, very, very different experience. And that is again when I realized that there's more. I want to continue staying here because this is good. I was enjoying what I was doing because I was getting exposed to a lot of different brands, different cultures, different people. And again, you'll not believe this actually if I say this, but it was a night when I was working on a project given by my boss to me, and we had to finish that internship for the masters. So
It's like a thesis, like a small.
yeah, like so I was working on the thesis, but at the same time you're also working physically at the at your office
Okay.
every day, right? So you have to finish your internship to get your master's degree. You can't
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and it was a 6 months internship. And of course, in France, I'm sure you have to get a contract, like a stage contract signed. So you have to finish the tenure and everything, and you have to get this thing from your boss that you finished it. So, but I was just, like sitting one night, I was just telling my mother had come to visit me. So they used to visit me from time to time, not all the time, but she had come, and I was just telling her that, I think I want to continue doing what I'm doing at the moment, but I'm not sure about this job, but let's see. So he said, "What do you mean? You wanna continue staying here? What is it that you want?" And I was very lucky that way because my parents were I could tell them whatever I wanted, and there was a
I think they're
conversation.
open. They're more
It was
open-minded.
never dismissed. It was a
Yeah.
conversation, and I was open to say whatever I wanted, and maybe a solution would be found how I want.
Yes.
So I said, I'm not sure about the internship. And I just told her that, I had researched because I just searched a few days ago and I loved this program, which was a
So.
new program called MBA in Luxury Management. And I was already doing a master's. And I said, I saw this and, this course will allow me to stay here even if I don't have the internship. I mean, even if once I
Yeah.
finish the internship.
Yeah.
And she said, but you're already studying. I said, I know, but I want to study more. Is that a problem? So she said, of course not. That's not a problem. But, do you really want to study more? I said,
Mm.
yeah, I want to. So she said, okay, let's find out because you're already doing something. How are you going to continue? When will you start that? So I said, I'll figure it out. So I found out more. I put an inquiry. They reached out to me. I was already in the middle of this program. I still had to present my thesis. And I started that program while I was finishing this program because the deadline was very near and I couldn't wait for the next batch because then I would have a long gap in between with
So
nothing.
let me get this right. So you already were on a program in Paris in fashion business, and then you chose another program in luxury.
MBA in luxury management.
So you did actually two programs, one in fashion business and one in luxury.
A master's and an MBA.
Oh my God.
The MBA one was actually France, Paris and Shanghai. So then there was a journey in Shanghai also later for almost a year. But then while I did this course, my boss told me that let's extend your internship contract and why don't you continue? So that got pushed from 6 months to 9 months. So I continued working with him for 9 months while I started this course. I used to do part-time. I used to work as well, and I used to
Wow.
do this. And that's where I was truly exposed to
Oh,
luxury.
okay.
And that's where in this program, and that's where I fell in love with it because of the professors, because of, the projects, the people. And I was full on, like, because it was an MBA program. It was very intense, and there were also a lot of group work and this and that, and you know how MBA programs are, and how a lot of research, lot of staying up late, lot of this, lot of that. But I used to like devour the assignments, and I used to actually tell my group that if you're not doing it, fine, I'm doing it. Like, I want to do it. I was that geeky student who loved to do everything because, again, branding, luxury, strategy, management, what's there not to like? So I was doing it like it was, like something that I was born to
Smita,
do.
you share a passion for luxury, and I believe that. And then it's the spark from the start, which I've seen you from the time I taught you fashion design, that the reaching of the goal is so dear to your heart and to your mind that
Yeah.
you would like say devour your assignments.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is something which is very, very passionate, but that passion has to be rooted at somewhere. Like, where is that passion coming from at that point of time? Like, what was the thing in your mind?
So I think, again, I don't think I have all the answers, but I can tell you that I was very excited about these brands because I had never seen this kind of ancient, history coming out in products, and how it's being, shown to people through different detailings, through packaging, through. So, it's like you discover, it's like an addiction, right? You discover
Yeah,
one, and then you're like, I want to discover this also. And then you're seeing a pattern. You see that
yeah,
there are fashion brands who are doing certain things. They started from somewhere, maybe making a belt or a bag, and now they are like it's a full house. And
yes.
there are brands which were doing trunks, and you know what I'm talking about. And now there are
Mm,
full, and there are brands which are not just fashion brands, but other brands, because we used to have to expose ourselves to a lot of different kinds of brands, be it
yes.
fashion, be it wines and spirits, be it, and that's the first time I discovered Dom Perignon in my
Oh,
life. What it was, what was the brand, why was it what it was, what was the story behind it, and even brands like Vacheron Constanta. First time, I never knew about these brands, so it was actually like an addiction because I didn't want it to stop. I wanted to keep discovering more, and then I also wanted to see, is it also something that's not just European,
yes.
focused? Is it also in different countries? And I discovered that yes, it was, but
Okay.
different way of storytelling, different, or not so much. But of course, the European brands are totally different in the way they position themselves, present themselves. We talk about that as we go, I guess. But that was the early discovery that I love this. I'm liking this. It's not just a product for me. And I used to actually have a lot of arguments with my father because he's an exporter. For him,
Yes.
its product is, it's the material and cost and production, and that's it. And I'm like, no, there's more.
You have your own brand at some point of time, Smita?
No, I actually decided that yes, I will launch something with my father, maybe like a brand. And I did do it for I think a month or so. But I'll tell you again, very honestly, I did it because it was something I wanted to try, but I'm not someone who can sell products. I think I'm someone who really wants to make meaningful conversations about luxury with people, talk about luxury, live luxury, I'm very happy with what I'm doing because I think it's very meaningful, and
And
it gives.
also, you did styling.
Yes, I did styling. I worked with people because of my background in fashion, and at that time, so that was right after my MBA when I came back. So I was in Paris and I was in Shanghai. I stayed there, worked there as well. And then when you come back to India, you had exposure of so many different markets. And then you are like, okay, let's see, what can I do? Because at that time I was exploring, what do I want to do with myself? And I was not clear. So should I start a brand? Okay, did that, not happy about it. Okay, but not, I'm not ready yet, it's what I told my father. And again, as I told you, my parents were very like, just you'll figure it out, don't worry.
Yeah.
They had belief in me because they saw how I was in Paris. They had come for my graduation ceremonies and everything, and spoken to my faculty, and spoken to they'd seen. And then I did styling because also I wanted to meet people
Yes.
in India, and that was a good way. And I had a good friend of mine who was also into beauty and things like that. We did a couple of stints together where we met people, we styled them, we did their wardrobe and this and that. And then I did it, not very happy about it. I can still do it, but I was figuring out, and I figured out that this is something that maybe I like, but not something that I want to do for the rest of my life. I can't keep going and styling people. I want to do something more, as I said, meaningful, because again, getting back to my luxury, I wanted to do something with luxury. And honestly, again, I'll tell you, at that time, back in 2013, there wasn't anything happening with luxury in India
Yes.
at all. Less of brands, less of people, handful, few people. I don't know, again, you may not believe this, but please believe me when I say this, very similar to my previous two stories on how I decided to go to Paris, or how I decided to do the MBA. I was in Delhi at that time. I just come back from China, and I was deciding, as I said, what to do. And I was just, as you would do, you would connect with people on LinkedIn, and
Yes.
connecting, and you're making connections, and you're following groups. And I saw this post of some kind of a luxury session to happen in Mumbai. I reached out to that, and I said, oh, I'm interested in this. What is this? And they said, just give us your details. And at that time, of course, I'm young. I'm still young, but I was even more younger with lot of energy. And I got a call, and they said that, oh, we want someone to come and talk about luxury for
Wow.
90 minutes to a group of 30 people. I said, okay, that sounds interesting. What do you want to put this person to talk about? So they said, no, just luxury and brands, and how luxury brands are, and just make it interesting. Can you do it? And I said, okay, but how do you want this talk to be? Do you want like a presentation? They said, just figure it out. I said, okay, I'm gonna go to Mumbai for a day to give this talk. I had already decided without asking my parents. And I told my father, I've got this. So he said, what is this? What place is this? Where are you going? I said, it's a college, and it's a fashion institute, which I like. I want to go there. And they have something with luxury going on. And they've asked me to come and talk for 1 hour in front of 30 people. And I want to do it. And I'm not listening to you. I want to do it. He said, okay, but you go, and then you do it, and you come back. And I said, no, I'm not booking a return ticket. I'm going to go, and I'm going to see how it goes. And if I don't, let's see how it goes, because, but at that time it was just a 1 hour talk. That's it.
Yes.
So I went, I came, and I was this very tiny person, skinny, tiny person, 25 years old, didn't know what I was doing. And I was in front of I was in a room with not 30 people, 90 plus, maybe 90 to 100 people. And
Wow.
of all age groups, I delivered a 3 hour session.
Yes.
Not a
I can
90.
believe that.
Yeah. And when I say I deliver a 3 hour session, it was not just me talking. There were people asking me questions. I was answering the questions, and it was so amazing. And it was, again, as I said, that, spark. Because I was talking to people, I liked what I was doing. I was talking about luxury, I was talking about fashion, I was talking about branding, and it was never ending. Later on, you'll get to know I got a job there. But he had invited me for this talk, and I went and later on thanked him, apologized that I'm so sorry. No, 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 it's great, great. You spoke for 3 hours, and it's amazing. They loved it, and I got offered a job on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Would you like to continue being with us, like teaching with us? And I said yes immediately,
Wow.
again without asking. I said nothing. And then I informed my parents that I've got this and I want to do it. And again, they were like, what? We've never heard of this school. What is this? I said, I'm doing it. They said, okay. So it started with that. And honestly, when I started my first session, like a proper class as a lecturer, guest
Yes.
lecturer,
Were you the youngest lecturer they've ever seen?
I think so. And I think my students were elder than me, but were they scared of they were scared of me in class, because I knew the business, I knew what I
Yeah.
was doing. And it started with 7 students, and I'm still in touch with all of them.
Wow.
With all of them. All my first 7 students. And it started with 7, and the journey at FAD was very amazing, because I actually learned how slowly this industry is growing, because uh started with 7, and when I left FAD in 2020, so it's almost 7 years I worked there,
Wow.
I had a group of 70 plus students, 100, close to 100 students when I left there. That's how much the program grew. And during this time, I had a lot of experiences. I did corporate training for luxury. In luxury, I went to different places. I taught in Mumbai, Pune. I taught in Dubai. I helped set up a campus there, and I engaged with a lot of. Again, it was something that I liked, and I was not only teaching luxury. I was teaching styling. I was teaching fashion communication. I was teaching branding. As I was telling you earlier, before we started the podcast,
Yes.
we were talking, and I was telling you that I used to teach 1,200 hours in a year.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a lot, and I was very happy doing it, to be very honest. And I had the energy also at that time to constantly talk. So I used to start in the morning at
You
9
still
o'clock,
have it.
and I used to finish my lectures at 7 in the evening with just, a cup of coffee and some. I used to live like that for a long period of time.
I
And
I was called multiple times to FAD
yeah,
for giving
session.
lectures to sessions to your students.
Yeah.
So coming back to the very beautiful luxury education, which is a niche, which I believe still is a niche,
Mm.
and I think we've seen your life story and understanding at least the first half of it.
Mm.
That what sacrifices did you make to reach this point? What kind of mindset and a commitment is required to become a luxury student?
lot, a lot, a lot of
Okay.
commitment, a lot of commitment. I mean, I don't know if I will call it sacrifices, but
Okay.
I think yes, you have to be committed. For me, they were not sacrifices. What I did when I was studying, or even now when I'm talking to students, I don't think of it as sacrifice. But I get where you're coming from, because maybe they are sacrifices for people. But I had a lot of, like, I had no. I told you my days 9 to 7. You're just talking, and it's draining when
It
you're.
is. It
I'm
is.
talking on my own job, but even when you're in luxury, you have to be very, I would say, in a particular way. Your demeanor, your appearance. And I don't mean appearance in the sense that you have to look a certain way. You could look like anything, but the way you present yourself to people has to be of a particular way. So you have to really work hard on that, because it's also about being consistent. You can't
Yes.
have bad hair days or mood swings when you're dealing with people. You have to exchange pleasantries even when you don't want to. As I said, it's a very niche industry, as you said, and as I said, it's a very small circle of people, and in India, it still is. So
Yes.
when you're meeting someone, you will eventually meet someone else who knew the first person that you met, and they will talk about you, or they will talk about the fact that they met you. And it's important that they exchange similar notes about your knowledge on luxury, your background, your demeanor, whatever it is. If you're a student, especially, I think it's very important to invest a lot of time. And the problem is, in today's day and age, people don't have
Yes, coming to
time.
my next question is the commitment in today's day and age. When you say a student, where there's so much options available in the total industry, in any industry, and the wavering attention towards what is the most flashiest thing available and how to run after it. And then there's continuous dopamine hits and the psychometrics of certain social media and digital media trying to focus you in a certain direction. What is your take as an
Mm.
educator, as a pioneer, as a mentor, and also as a student at one point of time? That what is the journey at every part when they should think about these things? That is luxury an option or a choice for them to future as a future to invest in it? How does
Mhm.
one maneuver through this process?
So I think what you're trying to talk about is the noise on social media, and people talking about blingy brand, product, everything, and how to kind of move around in this industry with all of this clutter of information. Now
Yes.
there's a lot of clutter of information, not what
But
it was
there's
when we
also
were
a lot
studying.
of schools, like a lot of
Yeah.
schools,
Okay.
giving you a lot of knowledge, but
Yeah.
not the right pathway to
Yes.
reach where you're supposed to reach. And then
Yeah.
we are so, I think students' minds are so malleable or
Yeah.
maneuverable at a point of time that they get influenced by certain XYZ. And that reflects badly on the luxury industry. Sometimes when they try to say, oh, I was not given the right information, it was not the right way, it was a bitter experience. And how does that factor into luxury? Because since we both are educators in the
Yes.
luxury, and you are the pioneer of these two big programs, which are twin city programs, not even one, so it goes over the borders. How does that happen? Like, and you've been teaching now those young minds, what is the thing which you tell them that, okay, this is what you're supposed to follow at this point of time?
So I think, firstly, very important, I always tell them to listen to themselves. There are a lot of people out there. What the problem is that students are talking to everyone today. Everyone.
Yes.
Okay. You need to either have one person guiding you, or you need to be guiding yourself. As I told you, when some of the decisions that I took, it was my own decision. So see, when it's your
Yes.
own decision, you are going to make sure that you are committed to it at a certain level, because you know it's your decision, and you will own it. I'm sorry to say this, but today's generation, there's a little bit of a commitment issue with decision making also. So there is a lot of like, why don't you tell us? And I still have that with a lot of students. And there are students who I will point right, I'll say, no, I think you should do this. Because I know that
Mm.
that student needs me to tell them that they need to do that. But there are also
Yeah.
students who I know can take their own decision. And so point number one is they need to make their own decisions. So they can ask around, but you please own your decision, because till the time you don't own your own decision, you're always going to blame it on something else or someone else, or something that you discovered or read and you thought that you should do it. So it should
Yes.
never be that I thought that I should do it. It should always be that I wanted to do it. And also, please understand that there is a process. You're not going to become like, I never knew that I'm going to be this person who will be in luxury education for more than 10 years or even more
Yeah.
than 1 year or 2 years. It just happened. I never looked at the title or the problem is that now I'm already coming with, I want to be this. To be this, what do I have to do? That's a wrong way of,
Yes.
again, that's a wrong way of doing it. You have to say, I am passionate about luxury. If you are, if you're not, it's fine. Then it's not an industry for you. If you are
Yes.
passionate about luxury, if you want to be in this industry, if you are someone who wants to learn, you will grow. Growing is a consequence of the first three things that I said. Because if
Yes.
you're passionate about luxury, you will stay committed. You will stay motivated. Nothing should deviate you from your path. If you want to do something in luxury, you will find your niche. Whether it's fashion or beauty or education or real estate or whatever, there are so many industries. At my time, there was nothing. Maybe I would have also been working in a luxury brand in a fashion brand. Maybe at that time, if there was those opportunities, so many. But today there are brands like Louis Vuitton, who are doing training programs with our school where they are selecting students for special programs, to train
So
them, which was not exist in India.
yes.
So I think growth, title, salary, position is a consequence of your commitment, you owning your decision. The first few years, you should just learn, actually, not for the money, or you should just learn, because actually the path will unfold. But yes,
Mm.
if you're asking me, do students ask for my mentoring? Do I give it? Do they ask for your mentoring? Do you give it? Yes, we give it all the time. But
Yes.
does it mean that my mentoring is the same for every student? No, I mentor a student based on their background, what they like, what they want to do. So the journey will be very different for every individual, and not everybody will land up becoming the country head or the country manager of a luxury brand. Someone will have a different journey, the other one will have a different journey. But I think they should not think about the title first. They should think about what they need to do or what that person has done to get to that title. But that's all, that's not even there in the mind.
Yes.
It's like, I want to be that. Okay, but do you even know about these brands? No, but I can Google it. You cannot Google even in a job. After a few days, your boss will know if you're chat GPTing or Googling everything, especially if you're in luxury. Googling and chat GPT may work in other industries, but honestly, to be very
In
honest,
luxury
and
will not.
about it does not work in our industry, we need to have a fair knowledge of what we are talking about. Uh,
Yes. Coming to
yeah,
the fact that you have so much information and there's of Louis Vuitton having the Horizon program in India,
yes,
which is
yes.
a big thing. And so, is the evolution of luxury brands in India in hand with luxury education in India?
No, and I think there's a lot of work to be done. In This is my personal, point of view. I think there's a lot of work to be done in both the spaces. If you talk about Indian luxury brands, I think there. I still feel there's no one Indian luxury brand that's I'm very proud to say, that this is, yes, maybe I can say a few are, but still getting there. Same thing with luxury education. We haven't even started. I
Okay.
think there's so much more that we can do. There's so much more that can happen at a school level also. See, if you're talking about
Yes.
finish masters is a program where you're kind of getting ready for the career, getting ready
Yes.
for the to get into your job. When I talk about education, truly education, I think luxury or an element of it should start from a junior, more junior level, slightly more junior level. Also, why? Reason is because they are already exposed to social media. They're already
Yes.
exposed to brands, to influencers. They're already exposed to runway shows, everything before they come to the master's program. So I am training them and mentoring them at a master's level, but I would be very happy to see this happening at a much junior level so that the base is better and there
Yes.
can be so much more ground that can be covered at a master's level advanced at an advanced stage if they
Yes. So
already learned something and then come, because I sometimes have to build the foundation also.
do they have to unlearn and learn some things at master levels?
Of course, all the time, all the
Okay.
time, all the time.
And
Because
is
again, as
yeah. No, no, is luxury education, like you see, there's so many schools in India which is already, I think, mushrooming everywhere. And they say we are
Yeah.
luxury educators, and they come from a fashion background. And I'm not putting names anywhere. I'm just putting in an horizon level that, and then they think they're teaching luxury. So
Yeah.
can you have a certain, I would say, I would not say create a like a black and white image, but even
Yeah.
like a 40% gray image that what is fashion education and what is luxury education? Can it be bifurcated?
Okay, firstly, I want to actually say thank you for this question. This is something that you'll not believe, but actually say this every day. I talk about this every day to my team, to my students, to my potential students, to their parents, to a lot of people. Luxury education is not just fashion. Let me please begin by saying that. Luxury education is much more, and that's what we do at SPJN with this program. I'm not here to market the program or talk about the program in any way, but I'm very proud to say that it's many steps above fashion education. If you're doing luxury management, okay, please look at the curriculum. Look at the brands that school is associated with. Look at the kind of sessions, or look at the kind of people who are coming to teach background, because it's very important, especially today, because you said, and especially today, why? Because in India as well, luxury is not just Louis Vuitton, Dior. It's not just that. There's real estate brands, there's wine brands, there's water brands, there's hospitality brands, there's automotive brands. Our students eventually land up in all of these brands, beauty brands, fashion. Yes, of course, there's a percentage of students who are interested in fashion, but the curriculum that you're studying, it has to cover the basics of all brands, which are luxury brands. And the fundamentals of luxury brands are not particularly, oh, it's a fashion brand, so we need to learn about how the styling works. Of course, when you're deep diving
Yeah.
into fashion and you want to get into fashion management, you have to look at lookbook, styling, a lot of aesthetic, which are very specific to fashion. But when I talk about maybe, let's say, an automobile brand, how does it
Yes.
work with automobile brand, or how does it work with a jewelry brand, or how does it work with a real estate brand? So it has to cover all of these sectors when you're talking about luxury management. You can't just be mono directional and just talk about fashion, because then you've not learned luxury management. You've studied high end fashion management, or fashion luxury, or I don't know how to even say it, but it's not luxury. You can't say that you've studied a luxury management program where 80% of your curriculum covers fashion. That's not good knowledge. That's dangerous actually, because you don't have enough knowledge and you're going out into the industry, and maybe you're going to land up working in a non-fashion brand. And then how are you going to cope? Because your base is not formed. So
that leads us to a very amazing question, which is my understanding is that your students go to
yeah,
Italy, and now your
yes,
your hospitality students go to Switzerland,
they
right?
go to Switzerland. Yes.
So uh, so I'm just thinking of the idea that are they equipped? Most of the times, what happens is when a fashion student I will give my experience that when I moved to Paris to do my masters, I was not equipped mentally
Mm.
to understand the wave which is going to come to me when I land there.
Yeah.
Be it understanding the culture, the food habits, the way they spend, or the way they earn, or even the way they live, the
Yeah.
idea of life which is there. And then there is a certain idea which we come from as an Indian. So I am, again, I'm with you. We both are Indians. We live with our parents. We have certain idea and culture behind us. We follow those rules and regulations. We have respect, and nothing against that. But are they equipped? Like, is luxury education equipped enough for our students to match the students internationally?
Okay. So I'll break this question down into two different parts, because I think one aspect of this is, are they equipped in the sense of, like the knowledge on brands, or the knowledge, the educational bit, and there's
Yes.
another layer to this question, which is more of culture, background, way of
Yes.
life, social beliefs, etc. So the answer is not a straightforward yes. The answer is yes and no, because there is something that happens in the classroom, which is at SPG, and we are training them day in and day out on not only, and I'm very happy up to say this, not only subjects. You've come, you've taught, you've seen the vibe of the school, the language. I mean, when I went to Paris, I did not know the language. They are
Yes.
equipped in the sense they know the language, so they learn. For Italy, the students they learn Italian when they go to Milan, and when the students go to Switzerland, they learn French, because one of the
Yeah.
dominant languages spoken there is
Yes.
French. Are they are they given a good understanding of the cultural values of that place, food habits, what are the good modes of transport to use? Basic. If you're asking me that, are they prepped up to
Yes.
set foot into that place? The answer is yes. Now, India is a complicated place, and 95% of my students are Indians. It's a complicated country. You'll agree with me. And I get students from all parts of the country, like many different locations. Now they all have different cultural background, have different cultural beliefs, have likes, dislikes, preferences. Now that's the second part of the question. That I am doing my bit as an educator with my student in the class from 9 to 5. But is the child continuing that journey before they have to go to Milan with the parents? Is it happening at home as well, that okay, I have to also get accustomed to maybe my eating habits, or my XYZ, or whatever, maybe also homesick. Sometimes the child is, when my student goes, they're just homesick. So what
Yes.
is happening? So it's a complicated question. And yes, we do prep them, and they are ready, and students do really well. Some students do
Yes.
really well. They in fact, also have students who are staying. Some of them are still staying there. Like they went back in 2018, 19, and they are still there. They're working there. So they get it adjusted very well. And then there are some who don't. So there's, again, I can't give you that the result for all the students are the same. But do we have certain processes or SOPs or rules and regulations or information that we have to pass on to students before they go, so that they can get comfortable? Percent yes. And it's a big area of focus. And let me tell you, it's a journey, because even we
Yes.
are evolving. We also keep adding more, because now we also send them GPS. We have a WhatsApp community. We send them the GPS location. Earlier it was just the address on the email. Now we even send the GPS location on this thing, so that they don't get stuck. We will even give them hacks on how to keep your Google Map on, even if your Wi-Fi is not working, where to get the proper vegetarian food. We do a session with the alumni also, students who have already stayed there and moving out. So
Yeah.
these students
And
meet them virtually, because also sometimes accommodations are changing. The way where they should stay, how they should stay, that has changed. Because as I told you, I have been in this industry for so long, and even in this role for 5 years now.
yeah.
So there were students who used to prefer living in a particular area 5 years ago, but now that's changing, because the
Yes.
students' preferences are changing. So we have to also upgrade ourselves. So we constantly upgrade ourselves. And I'm very happy to say that we have safely sent more than 600 students to Milan in this program, through this program.
So coming
Successfully.
back to India, Smita, when
Yeah.
I was a student there, and I came back from my masters, and I came back in India, and I realized that there is a certain glass ceiling, at least in India, I felt about entering a certain fashion arena, because at the
Yeah.
point there was Lakme Fashion Week, and then there was FDCI doing their weeks, and then there was no luxury industry as such. Is connections, networking have weight in the aspect, like, okay, I'm not from a background which is connected to people, like I'm not from um a, a background which is a market related background, or a very rich background, or connected to people, because a lot of people have that notion. I think I believe that for a very long time, that, and have that myth that, to grow and be successful in luxury, you should know people, you should have a certain look, vanity, certain diversity in terms of where you come from, and what kind of reflection of your character, or what kind of cars you drive, or who you know. Like, does that hold weightage? Because, like I said, India is a very chaotic, and it's a different market. And in luxury in India, we are still understanding, a lot of brands have come and gone, and they're still trying to understand
Yeah.
what is this chaos which is still happening, and people are still spending money. How does one maneuver that, or understand that, okay, if I need to get successful in luxury, at least in India, I need to know, see the Reliance retail head, or the Aditya Birla head, or the Louis Vuitton head. And then I know I can get a job there very easily, or this is how I can work. And that's, is it a myth, or is it a reality? What is it? Or is it like a fog in between, which we still need to decipher that?
Okay, so I'll talk about the getting access to luxury brands and getting the job part first, and then I'll also talk about networking and all of those things and how that plays a role. So, firstly, to get entry into the luxury segment in India today, it's much easier than it was at our time.
Yes.
Because when I say much easier, I don't mean to say it's easy. Okay, you still need
Yes.
to have a certain knowledge, and of course there'll be multiple interview rounds, and of course, but brands are more uh they need people now. They're growing. They want, I mean, we get opportunities almost every day from luxury brands that they're looking to hire. But do connections and networking and all of that help? Yes. I want to talk a little bit here about myself also, and
Okay.
how I have managed to make a connection with more than 200 brands for this program. It did not happen in one day, and it happened through meeting one person to the other person to the other person, then again maybe meet another person, and then it was like a circle that kept growing, to be very honest with you. And it's never ending, and it's still growing, but it again goes back to that person number one that I met, I still know that person number one. That is important in this industry. So networking and connections will 100% help you more, but that will not be the only reason why you'll be able to be successful, because eventually your
Right.
knowledge, your demeanor, and yes, you need a certain kind of demeanor. When I say demeanor, I don't mean physical appearance. You could look like anything, you could have any kind of physical appearance, and it is a myth that, like, people feel that, I don't know, or slightly overweight, or slightly this, or slightly short, or I'm quite short. I'm 5'1". It's never stopped me from teaching, because normally you want to have a teacher who's nice and tall, and you know no, but
No,
you need to
Smita, you're a
have a
force of
certain
nature. You're a force of nature. Nobody can stand in front of you. We're talking about just the people
God.
who are like introverts. Like, you're
No,
just
but
trying to.
but I yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you want to work in this industry, you have to work on yourself. I have worked
Yeah.
on myself, and every day I have to work on myself. Vanity, yes, you need to be well groomed. You need to be
Yes.
well spoken. You need to be someone who knows basics, greeting, talking, pleasantries, offering things to people, like, just
Yeah,
you need to
basic
have
etiquette.
those basic etiquettes. And I think maybe because you want to work in luxury, a little bit more than basic, like, you may be just, being more courteous. It really takes you a long way where when you're polite with
Yes.
people in this industry. And so that part is important. I will say that vanity part is important. Please understand, you aspire to work in the luxury brand because the luxury brand has a certain kind of positioning, personality. The brand itself is an identity, and you yourself as a person have an identity. The identity should match.
Yes.
if you've not got a job, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. Maybe you're good enough for another brand, because the identities, the ethos of the brand and your own personal spirit or ethos has to match. So there's place for everyone, because there are a lot of different kinds of luxury brands with different voices and different personas, but you still have to work on your basic grooming, etiquette, skills, this, that, everything. Networking will take you a long way. If you can be good to people, people will be very good to you in this industry, because there are less people, again, remember what I said. But it has changed from the time when I will say that we were looking at, I think, it was very closed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I struggled to get brands to talk to students. They
Yeah.
refused, when back in 2013, 14, I was, and then that time there was nobody, as I told you. So sometimes brands used to
Yes.
even question me that, how can you even ask us to come and talk to students? We're not interested in this. We're a luxury brand. And how can you even think that your students are going to come to our store? It's a store. I am so happy to see this, that after so many years of hard work, there are so many brands that we've done visits, we've done tours, we've done master classes, we've done power
Oh,
talks,
yes.
we've done
It's
webinars,
a
but
brilliant,
it has taken
brilliant program.
persistence, that please, we want you, you have to. And they've realized now, the brands have realized, because they also somewhere feel that if they don't support, eventually
Yes.
these are the people who they're going to hire, so they have to have some interface with them early on. So yeah, it has, the glass
So
ceiling is still there, but it's getting
it's
better.
still there. Yes. Okay. Let's
It's still
work
there.
on something which I think you and me both have faced. And then I think we have a passion which is an undying curiosity. And for me, it's undying curiosity to learn and to share. For you is again the same, to share education and create a platform for
Yeah.
people to be educated. Is there a work-life balance? The first part of the question. The second part of the question is, when you started, like when I started in this industry, I didn't have, because today's day and age is all about planning milestones. In this year I have to be this, and they plan the whole way. They create a mindset of that whole way, that I have to finish these many things and then I take a holiday. So first part of the question is that after you reach there, is there a work life balance where you understand that, okay, I'm doing work and this is not my work and this is my vacation, this is my structure of my life? And secondly is that, how do you reach there when you have a plan and you don't have a plan? And does that work in luxury?
Okay. I think for me, I'm not very proud to say this, but I am a workaholic. And yes, I do have downtime when I am doing my own things, but I sometimes do struggle maintaining a boundary of time when it comes to my job. Also, because, being very honest, not something that I said, I'm not proud of it, because I do get sometimes, my husband will be like, stop, I have this issue of, I need to finish, I need to do it now. And also, I don't see it as work, I think, because
Yes,
I told you, like,
that's
I'm
the
very
idea.
passionate about talking to people about luxury and doing anything to do with luxury. And I'm still that passionate as I was when I first started my journey. To be very honest, that passion has not died down. In fact, if anything, it's grown over the years. Also, because I feel now this is a good moment for our country. It's a good moment to be in this space, and I want to be doing a lot more than I'm actually doing. So, having said that, yes, I do. Now, of course, because I've been working for so many years, I've come to a certain point in life where I can take a break here and there,
Yes.
But yeah, last year I went to US, but I took a break after 2 years. So for 2 years, I'd not taken a vacation, and then I realized, oh, it's
Wow.
been 2 years. I we need to take a break, and then now constantly I'm taking a break once a year, like going out, going out of the
Yes.
country, so that I can just talks, and also because
Recharge.
it is important. Yeah, to recharge, to get inspired again, to recharge, and to get updated with my own self. That is my part of the question about work life balance. So I'm getting that. I think that this is my feeling. I may be traditional in thinking, but I think your 20s to 30s, you have to hustle and you have to work a lot, and you should be working more than you should work when you're in your late 30s and approaching 40. So that is my, as I said, I may be traditional in my thinking, but because I know the younger generation, it's more about work-life balance and, hours are measured. I still don't measure
Yes.
my hours. I'm still okay to work on a Sunday. I'm doing all of these things while I'm doing my regular job. So I'm okay with all of this. But it's not for everyone, as I said.
Yes.
But yeah, if I talk about the second part of the question that you mentioned, which is more about the younger generation having a plan and having all of these things, it's always good to have a plan. I will not say that I disagree on the plan part. It's good, but it's not good to be rigid and stuck on the plan, because life happens. And
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot of times. Students come with a certain mindset, but there are students who are very they become flexible, because see, what happens is, in this program, when you're meeting other students, you realize certain things, you meet faculty, you realize more things, you study, you realize you're constantly evolving. So evolution is all about change.
Yes.
And when you are changing constantly, the plan also eventually may change, and you have to be okay with it. That plan can change, because I never had a plan. But as a student, I think today you should have a basic, I would say, goal, or no, maybe not a plan, like just a goal, like, okay, if I want to work in this industry, but you should be open minded where you can work. Maybe sometimes you land up working in an industry for a couple of years, and that leads you to
Yes.
something else. And I've seen that happening with a lot of students. A student of mine started with top fashion brands, Gucci, Hermes, you name it, and now is working in real estate, but in the luxury division, and is extremely happy and is doing really well. There are students who come with this thought process, we want to get into fashion, but eventually they don't land up. They land up in other industries, because they get more excited about other industries.
Yeah.
So it's not good to be rigid. It's good to have a plan,
Okay.
and the plan should be, I want to make it. I want to
Okay.
make it. Irrespective, the journey has to. You can come with a result. This is what I want. But most of the time, this is what the parents, my child wants to be
Yes.
this. How do I make my child this? Please tell me. I cannot tell you. Very important to be
It's
flexible,
funny,
I think,
right?
in today's world.
It's funny that how parents and are so involved in a child's decision, and I think it's so much of in Indian culture predominantly that okay, I want to do this, but I have to ask my parents, and I come from the same culture.
Yeah, yeah,
And to do fashion and to do luxury at a point of time when I studied fashion luxury was like a taboo, and I myself
yeah.
followed it for a very very long time against my family's decisions, and then turned out to what I am today is a totally different ball game. Like I said, yes, they do have a plan, but the plan changes, and like you clearly said that evolution is based on change, so you have to be ready to change. So
Yes.
I want to now know that if Smita had like when you in your 10 years or 15 years in your career, what are the things which you might have gone back and advised yourself at that point of time that, I would have done this at this point of time and this at this point of time? Give me three instances or anything which you want to share that going back, I would remember that had I done this or had I done that, I would have been in a better place or I've been much more on a wider horizon or a better platform.
So I will say that I'm actually very happy with where I am at the moment. Also because I've been the first of many in my career graph. So youngest faculty, youngest person who's taught like corporates. I've taught people who are 3 times my age, and they've listened to me. Youngest director at this organization where I'm working. So I wouldn't have had all of that if I would have changed something in my journey that has got me to this place. I think the only thing that I feel, because of course it's not perfect. There are things that you'd always want to go back and change, or I think that I should have matured more when I started my PhD. So I started my PhD about 8 years back, and I didn't realize when I started it that it's going to take so much of my time. I was very clear that equal time to the job, equal time to the PhD. But over a period of time, the job took over, because obviously there were so many things that were happening, because this industry, as I told you, is exploding. I think I should have actually started it now at this time, because I actually have more time to give it now and more maturity to give it now. But I think I was always on a high horse, that now let's do this, now let's do this, now let's done the double masters, now let's do the PhD, now let's also. So I think that was something that I went in too fast. Also another thing that I feel that, again, this is not in my control, but I think if there were more opportunities in my time when I was when I had graduated and I had done my MBA, masters and MBA, and I had all that exposure from France and from different parts of the world, maybe I would have worked in a brand, and maybe I would have liked that. But that's something that I don't know. But I'm actually very happy with what I'm doing at the moment, because as I told you, what excites me is constantly talking and sharing things on luxury. Like you said, curiosity is your thing. It's what keeps you going. For me, it's this constant discussion that I have with this age group. So I'm constantly talking to 20 to 30-year-olds, and I've been doing that for the last 10 years. So I have to always be updated, and so I think I'm more, I stay updated because of this job. Because if it wasn't for this job, I would be doing something else. I would maybe not work so hard on updating myself all the time. But because
What
of
would be your
this,
second? What would be your second career if you would not have been this job?
maybe I would like to believe that like a CEO of a big luxury brand, or a creative director of a big luxury brand, someone who's taking all the decisions. So I'm very content, actually. I'm also excited for what's going to happen in the near future, because let me tell you that this luxury education industry is going to be big. We're just getting started. So I think I'm in a good place, and I think I made the right decision by choosing this. Because I see that there's a lot of potential, and as I told you, like I, I'm glad that I'm doing this. So
No,
yeah,
but you're the
I'm
right
happy
person to
about
do this. So I totally believe you. What is the one piece of advice which you live by, which you want to share? You give out the secret to all the people around us and say, okay, this is Smita's secret to success in luxury. What would that be?
time and patience. Spend a lot of time on yourself and be patient with others. And I have learned this the hard way, because we do the opposite. We give people a lot of, we spend time on a lot of people, and no, spend a lot of time on yourself, growing yourself, evolving yourself. So don't have immediate reactions, and don't give immediate, decisions to people, and, immediate yes, no. Take time, on yourself, and be patient. Even when people are taking time to get back to you, you need to be a bit patient, especially when you're a beginner in this industry. I think these are the two important things that have kept me. I've learned it the hard way, as I told you, because I am a person who's quite, I will say, fast, hyper aggressive. I'm not someone who's patient. So I know you would also be surprised at what is she saying, but I can be a certain way with you. But I've learned that we have to be very patient sometimes for certain things to happen.
Yes.
But you need to give yourself time to be in this industry, and that personal time and personal grooming, that's very important. You may do any kind of course, any kind of program, any kind of finishing school or training, but you still need to spend time on yourself, by yourself. That's very important, I think. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
That's it.
Smita. You've been an amazing
You're
guest.
welcome.
And
Thank you.
this
Thank
this
you,
has been
Bhargav.
an amazing interview. Yes.
Yes,
For the worth
absolutely.
revealed and the audience, I think this is Smita Jain, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Thank you.